Once it gets to your body, within 5 hours, it will have been circulated everywhere inside your body. Everywhere, including the toll.
Drama ama jeneza mtu amekufa. Nakuta imefungwa na nduthi. Jua huwezi simama barabarani ukiulizia maswali. Ati nini imebebwa, nini haijabebwa.
At first, 15 persons suffering from cancer had approached us seeking redress. But now the number has more than doubled over a 2-week period.
When you see such a tomato and you go, why do you have to buy it? You already see a visible sign of a chemical. Why do you buy it?
Some of these guys, they know the systems. We have a feeling some of them are protected by the same systems that are supposed to be enforcing them.
We have ambassadors in Nairobi. Why are you ambassadors in Nairobi? Knowing very well that these products that are being sold in Kenya are not consumed in your country. Why are you allowing? What kind of diplomacy is this?
Seven months ago, we traveled to Timau in Meru County to investigate a disturbing pattern. Farmers were falling sick, some were dying, and the common thread? Years of exposure to pesticides. We first met Lucy McKenna in Mbaria village, where over 10 farmers have died of cancer. Others struggle with neuropathy, Parkinsonism, and eye problems. And even though Lucy's story is heartbreaking, it is far from unique.
Alianza kugonjeka, mwili wake ukabadilika, tukaenda hospitali wakati tulitumwa na daktari kwa physician. Na wakati alipelekwa kwa physician kuna vipimo aliambiwa akafanyiwe. Wakati alienda huko tulifanyiwa test mingi na picha mingi, kafanyiwe MRI. Na zote tukatoka ako na liver cancer, juu mwili wake ulikuwa umetani na akaanza kujikuna, haezi kula, haezi kaa, haezi lala. Wakati ugonjwa ulijulikana ilikuwa late. Na yeye mzee, njoo alikuwa mzee wa miaka 85. Akalose hope, akaona kansa ni kama haiponi. Na yeye kulose hope, ugonjwa uliweza kuenda na yeye.
Lucy's uncle is also fighting throat cancer.
Hii koo iko na ugonjwa mpaka hapa. Hiyo kansa. Nasikia mwili iko ovyo haina nguvu. Nasikia hata kutembea. Nasikia hii miguu haiwezi kuenda vizuri. Madaktari walisema hii madawa tunaweka kwa shamba ndio inaharibu sisi kwa mwili.
7 months later, Lucy's mother's breast cancer has spread to her brain, but her uncle received good news. Doctors say his cancer is cured. They have told him to observe a good diet, bask in the sun, and enjoy life. But in the same village, Charles Rutere still walks with a spring in his step, but it is deceptive. Neuropathy has destroyed his sensory nerves. He can't feel pain, he can't tell hot from cold. He has lost his sense of touch.
Hii mikono kushika kitu sisikii. Mguu kwenda kama msumari iko kwa miguu. Ikiwa kwa mkono mimi naiona niko naye. Lakini kwa mkono wangu haiko.
We have returned to Mbaria village with Professor Zakayo Thaimuta, a pathologist. In October, he camped here, taking blood and urine samples from these farmers. Today, he's delivering results that will confirm what many have suspected. The poison is inside them.
Well,
Professor Thaimuta didn't just take samples. He developed screening tools, gathered medical histories, documented work patterns. Some of these farmers worked on pesticide-heavy farms for 17 years. Some were terminated, yet all of them are presenting with similar ailments.
We said, let's find out how their liver is functioning. Then we went to the kidneys, which is also another major organ. I want to see how the kidney is functioning, and then the heart and the endocrine system. So the immediate one that we picked was Paraquat.
Why Paraquat? It's a highly toxic but commonly used herbicide for controlling weeds and grass worldwide. Studies have linked it to lung damage, skin issues, and Parkinson's disease. Due to this, it was banned in the UK in 2007, but it remains widely used in Kenya because it is cheap.
What we are noticing is that all the 70 samples that we collected, we have at least a trace of Paraquat.
All 70 samples, every single one. Even farmers who left the farm 3 or 4 years ago. But it is what this chemical does inside the body that is truly alarming.
Paraquat has a half-life and distribution half-life of 5 hours in the body. What that means is that once it gets to your body, within 5 hours, it will have been circulated everywhere inside your body. Everywhere, including the toe or the nail. If you consume 1 gram of Paraquat, in 7.5 hours time, you have excreted half of that. That is 0.5 grams. When it gets to water, we realize that Paraquat has a half-life of 820 years. As it is going around the body, the first stop is the liver. There is a detoxifying enzyme, which usually is called, in the series called cytochrome. So this is P450 cytochrome. Paraquat has a way of arresting that enzyme. And therefore, it makes the liver vulnerable to toxicity. Very strange situation. Other than that, then we find that several other functions of the liver are deranged.
The doctors found that Paraquat damages the kidneys, exposing consumers to both liver and kidney failure. They also established metabolic problems in the blood samples.
Paraquat is a heavy molecule. It has certain physical features. One, it can enter to the body through the skin. It can also enter to the body through inhalation. It can enter the body through any opening available, including the eyes, in the mouth. So there are several routes through which Paraquat is getting to the body. That now tells you that the amount of Paraquat that these people are consuming is so much, because some of them will tell you that they don't use PPEs. So the farmers who are not working in the farm, they buy it from the agrobet and go to mix it with their own hands without gloves. So when it dissolves in water, it means that like more than 80% of the blood is water. So it dissolves in water, it can be in blood, it can be transported around the body in blood. And that is where you find it all over. And say like somebody has worked in a farm for 10 years. This thing has been accumulating, and so it's being kept removed. The liver, the renal function, that's the kidneys, has lowered its function. So again, the level of elimination is so low. So even after 5 or so years, you still see the traces of Paraquat in the system.
The doctors are currently establishing a link between Paraquat and Parkinsonism, as well as non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a group of blood cancers involving the body's lymphatic system. Professor Thaimuta notes this type of cancer is recorded in high numbers in this area.
A lady who has worked in a farm for 17 years. She got 3 children while working there. 16 years later, her son, the last born son, developed a problem. And the problem was in the testes. So this child has been seen in Meru Level 5 Hospital and Nanyuki Level 5 Hospital. And a decision was made that the testes be removed. So it might mean then that there was paraquat in the milk that the boy was consuming. And probably other interactions. The mother may have transmitted the paraquat, because how would it be that the child will get the paraquat?
The doctors are also linking paraquat to early infertility in this region and kidney failure cases, leading to high numbers of residents requiring dialysis. He explains how prolonged consumption puts the body on overdrive, affecting general functioning and longevity.
Meru recently installed a hemodialytic machine, and it's already full. So the cases are very many, and we are again associating it with the paraquats. Reason being that if you look at the concentration areas, in Timau we have the horticultural farms. In Kirua we have the agricultural activities taking place there. In Maua we have miraa, and people spray miraa with these drugs containing paraquat. The most unfortunate thing is that they spray miraa and then they chew, and miraa is chewed the outer surface. So the drug is already there, it's raw. Those who are producing tomatoes, they will tell you that these are tomatoes for the market, so they spray. And they have the tomatoes for consuming, which they preserve. So the ones they do for spray, they are taken to places like Nairobi and in other township areas, which me and you are going to consume. But me and you must have consumed this paraquat, most likely in our breakfast this morning.
The situation is replicated in Naivasha, where most flower farms are concentrated. Doctors tested flower farm workers and found both paraquat and glyphosate in their bloodstreams. Advocate Gilbert Njoroge has been spearheading the legal action.
In Naivasha, we did test 63 of our clients, and the doctors found that 15 of them had been affected because of the high exposure to specifically glyphosate and paraquat.
Njoroge points out that Naivasha represents what is happening across the country. Thika has particularly sprung up. Farm workers there have been exposed since the 1990s. Like those in Timau and other parts of the country, these workers had minimal to no protective gear. Some wore gunny bags and dust masks instead of proper overalls, gumboots, and masks. Most affected were sprayers, planters, and those that worked in mixing facilities.
At first, 15 persons suffering from cancer had approached us seeking redress, but now the number has more than doubled over a 2-week period.
A significant proportion of pesticides used in Kenya are classified as highly hazardous. About 42% of imported pesticides are potentially dangerous according to World Health Organization and Food and Agriculture Organization classifications. Smuggling is a critical factor. Porous borders enable illicit trade, and corruption among officials at entry points allows unscrupulous traders to bring in these substances. We traveled to Kimana in Oloitoktok to understand how smuggling works and why demand is always high.
Madawa ya Kenya ya kuwa bei ya juu sana. Hiyo ndio inasababisha tunaruka pande ile. Hapa iko 5,000, 6,000. Na kuna unapata na shilingi kama 2,500 kwa lita.
Tuna asasi za usalama, tuna asasi ambazo zina access haya madawa jinsi yanaweza kudhibitiwa, lakini Pia na wale ambao wanafanya kazi hizo pia na watu ambao wana ujanja wao. Wale wanataka dawa nyingi kwa mara nyingi zinaweza kusafirishwa usiku. Kwa hiyo zitasafirishwa hata mchana tu kwa njia tofauti. Kwa sababu hata kama zitafungiwa ndani ya vitu zingine hautajua.
Another farmer explains that while farmers actively use pesticide products from across the border, accessing them has become difficult following raids on agrovet shops a few years ago.
Takriban miaka kama 3 imeisha, kulikuwa na msako ambao wengi walishikwa na hizo dawa, ambao pia biashara zao zilidorora kwa kunyang'anywa hizo na kupigwa fine.
While interviewing farmers, we meet Charles Wambua, a resident of Kimana and consultant agronomist who worked for major agrochemical companies. He's here to deliver pesticide products.
Kuna some few companies ambao kuna dawa ambao sitakiwi situmike kwa mimea kama nyanya ama vitu za kukula, lakini unakuta zina infiltrate, unakuta zinakuja kutumika mashambani, lakini juu ya demand ya soko huku, especially dawa za spider mite, unakuta ndio imeregistriwa kwa maua, lakini unakuta na infiltrate, wanakuja wanauza huku kwa mashamba ya nyanya, vitunguu. Lakini sasa hapa tunalima nyanya, inaenda Nairobi, inaenda Kampala, inaenda Kisii, inaenda kila mahali. Kwa hivyo kutrack nini inaweza kuwa inaleta shida kwa kukula si rahisi ujue, maana si lazima nyanya iandikwe imetoka Kimana ama Loitoktok.
With this information, we decide to test the system ourselves. We will cross the border to Tanzania via Oloitoktok and attempt to purchase and smuggle these products. The aim is to test the inspection procedures at the border control point. I am in an agrovet shop in Tanzania. This is Paraquat. These are some of the chemicals that we have purchased from this shop. Once the transaction is complete, we cross back to Kenya with the product wrapped in a carrier bag and placed on the passenger side of our vehicle.
We have now crossed over from the Tanzanian side to the Kenyan side, and I'm standing at Kibauni village. And with me are the chemicals that we bought from the other side.
While Kenya's borders with Tanzania have been identified as transit points for illegal and counterfeit pesticides, other key crossings like Busia and Malaba on the Ugandan border have also been identified. The agrochemicals passing through these borders move across the country for various purposes, including rice farming in Mwea. And so we visit Mwea to find out how this business operates and why rice farmers can't seem to stop using banned pesticides. We meet Jane, not her real name, from Dorome village.
Wakati nilianza kulima kwa 2023 niliona dawa inaitwa ndundu. Hiyo dawa ya ndundu nilitumia karibu miaka 3. Nikienda kununua sijui nimetoka wapi. Niliambiwa tu ni dawa tu ya kuua wa ndundu kwa mashamba.
Jane only stopped when she started feeling unwell.
Nilikuwa nikifanya kazi na sasa nilikuwa nikishindwa na mwili, hata nikatumia madawa ingine ya arthritis. Nikakunywa hiyo madawa miezi 4. Nikaambiwa ni nerves inaua, ni nerves yangu imelala. Nikatumia miezi 4. Hiyo miezi 4 ni kila siku dawa moja na inatoka 50 shillings.
Wairimu, not her real name, explains how this black market operates.
Hizi story ya hii dawa, unjue wanafichanga watu. Nikienda kununua mimi, hawezi niushia. Anaushia wale wanaenda kuspray. Hivyo sasa tunatumia hawa vijana. Ukiwa kasi yako ni ya kuspray, nitakutuma na ushia. Kwa mchele inatumika. Alafu nimeona inatumika mpaka kwa miwa. Kuna watu wanapanda miwa huku, kuna watu wanapanda mandisi huku, inatumika. Hiyo nyingine ni nduma.
Wairimu explains what happens when the chemical contacts bare skin.
Ukienda kuspray inamwagikanga, ikimwagika inakuja inakaa huku kwa mgongo. Hata ukiosa huwezi majisika, kwa sababu inakuja huku kwa breathing hii ya nini, huwezi toa na huwezi toka. Si unaona hiyo ni ugonjwa pia.
We find a handler, a sprayer in the village. Let's call him Mutua. We send him to buy the pesticide from the barons. Before he leaves, we send money to his M-Pesa. This business needs connections. You need to know someone who knows someone who will direct you to the seller, who will look at you with judgmental eyes before deciding whether to sell or shoo you away.
Wale distributor wenye wana participate kwa hizo madawa, kutoka kwa mmoja kwenda kwa mwingine ni long distance. So akiexport hizo dawa zake, anakuwa amefanya hesabu ya nini, zile shamba analeta nini madawa.
He succeeds, returning with dudumectin, a chemical originating from Uganda. This is the same chemical that farmers are using to kill snails.
Duka ya kwanza yenye nilienda tu, sasa ni kama waliogopa kuniuzia hiyo ya kwanza. Ndio sasa nikatoka hapo na ndudi hadi huko ngambo ile nyingine. Zinauzwa kama zimefichwa. Na utanelezi sasa kama mwenye sasa nilikuwa na deal na yeye juu ni mjamzito. Hezi inama mahali nini, unaona sasa lazima ikuwe mahali atachukua ndo apimie nini juu, lakini ingine unapeanaga pesa inakuza kama bangi huko chini, kuzo umeletewa ndo hii mahali yako ya songa, pesa inaenda nini, mzigo inakuza.
As a sprayer, Mutua knows firsthand the effects of this chemical. He has done this job for over 5 years.
Kukula ni shida, maji ni shida, tunaambia usikunywe maziwa, ukunywe nini? Ukunywe maji. Sasa maji nayo ni shida ingine. Food ni nguli. Sasa ukipulizia hii dawa unaweza kaa hata siku 2. Ndio ukule upate appetite yako. Ukikula unatapika, ukikula unatapika. Kulala nayo sasa kama uko na bibi, hiyo inakuwa sasa ni nguli sasa. Ukipulizia tu ansu umepulizia, hapo sasa unaweka off.
But how do these products travel from Tanzania and Uganda?
Drama ama jeneza mtu amekufa. Nakuta imefungwa na ndudi. Kifika pale tu ni usiku tu inakuza imetolewa. Ndudi inasonga. Inakaa hivyo sasa asubuhi mnarauka mnaenda kupata nini. Dawa iko lakini haikujagi mchana. Na haijai kuza mchana.
At the next village, we meet Makau. Not his real name. He's been a sprayer for over 15 years. For each spring session, one full knapsack, he earns 150 shillings. Over the years, his sight has deteriorated, but he keeps going, because if he doesn't, who will educate his children? But as a farmer himself, Makau explains that farmers use these products out of desperation.
Ni vile wanaona wakipanda mchele, hiyo wandundu wanakata mchele. Na mchele unakatiwa pale chini. Alafu mchele huyo ukikatwa hapo chini, shamba iko na maji. Hiyo mchele ikaoza.
The product is used a few weeks after planting, while the rice plants are still young and vulnerable to snails. Other alternatives, Makau says, are not as efficient. They only destroy snail eggs and babies, leaving the adults. The unregistered ones clear all age groups.
Hii inanyunyiziwa asubuhi wakati hawa wandudu wameamka ama jioni. Na uweke maji, ni lazima uweke maji, ndivyo wale wamejimbia kwa mchanga watoke. Na ukinyunyizia hiyo usiweke maji, hiyo ikauke kabisa.
At Nyandarua County, farmers also report being able to access these unregistered products.
Sana kama hizo za kutoka Tanzania huwezi ukapata kwa agro shops. Kuna vendors ambao sasa wanafanya tu kama ile kitu kama iliko kama vile bagi inauzwa. Kwa hivyo huwezi washika. Lakini kama sisi wenye tumezoea mambo ya ukulima, ukiniambia tu nikichukua tu pesa niseme nitatafuta mpaka ya Tanzania nitaipata. Kwa sababu najua tu fulani na fulani na fulani wanajua tu kupenya huku, wanakuja nazo.
The Center for Environmental Justice and Development, CIJAD, conducted a study examining pesticide use and effects in Kajiado, Kirinyaga, and Nakuru counties. The aim was to identify highly hazardous pesticides, document use and management practices, and assess the health and environmental effects. Across the 3 counties, 2 of the top 10 products used were registered in Tanzania, not Kenya, pointing to illegal cross-border trade. This included snow tiger and dudumectin, products used across the 3 counties. 167 were identified as highly hazardous. Kajiado had the highest number with 102 products, followed by Kirinyaga with 69 and Nakuru with 37. Nearly half of the identified products are classified as reproductive toxicants. This means they can adversely affect sexual function and fertility in adults and cause developmental toxicity in offspring. Another 40% are classified as human carcinogens. About 544 of respondents reported experiencing adverse effects following exposure to pesticides. The most common symptoms included skin rashes, headaches, nausea, vomiting, dizziness, excessive salivation, diarrhea, sleeplessness, difficulty breathing, and excessive sweating. About 248 of them reported that they or their family suffered from chronic illnesses. The illnesses mainly reported included cancer, diabetes, liver disease, learning difficulties, kidney disease, and developmental disorders. Kajiado County, for example, recorded the highest rate at 166, followed by Kirinyaga at 73 and Nakuru at 9. Some women used pesticides while pregnant or breastfeeding. This is despite the fact that pesticides can be passed from mother to unborn child, and exposure during pregnancy has been linked to adverse pregnancy outcomes and impaired child growth. Now, the organization is also looking into cases of suicide where pesticides were used.
We look back like 5 years and collect data from hospitals, from forensic laboratories, from police, in terms of those suicide cases and people who have self-harmed and which type of pesticide did they use. If it is paraquat, if it is chlorpyrifos, all these active ingredients that is found to be mostly used for self-harm, then the government can take them out of the market, and hopefully that will reduce deaths. Basically because of access. People easily access these products.
The pesticides.
Michael Mbugwa is the Sub-County Agriculture Officer for Loitoktok Sub-County, Kajiado South. He speaks about the pesticide issue and acquisition from the neighboring country.
In terms of amounts, it's not very easy to tell, but actually the trade is there. And the chemicals are not only being used here in Loitoktok, they are also going into other places. You will find them going up to areas like Narok. We even have cases of areas in Kirinyaga, even Nakuru.
However, he has observed health effects among the farmers: skin rashes, stomach poisoning, and dizziness. He has also observed the same with wildlife.
You will find where those horticultural farms are, you don't find beehives getting colonized by the bees, or honey harvested from those hives. They have a strange taste. So you would attribute it to the chemicals.
He also notes that their efforts to capacity build farmers and show them the dangers of using the chemicals are hindered by lack of resources, including money, equipment, machinery, and human resources. Facilitation is also an issue. To cross the whole ward, you need a motorcycle and fuel. However, only 2 wards have motorcycles. In one ward, there is an officer, but without a motorcycle. And in 2 wards, there are no officers and no motorcycles.
Actually, the ideal ratio should be 1 agricultural extension officer to about 600 farmers. And you see, this is 1 to maybe 8,000. In other cases, 1 to 4,000. In other cases, 1 to 3,000. I don't think there is a ward that is below 3,000.
Frederick Mushiri is Chief Executive Officer of the Pest Control Products Board, an institution that was established in 1985 to regulate importation, exportation, manufacture, distribution, and use of pest control products in the country. He explains that there is a variation between the types of pesticides entering the country at different border points.
Between Lungalunga and Namanga here, we have confiscated goods amounting to about 2.5 tons. 2.5 tons. These are goods attempting to get in. You'll also note that because of the farming nature of the community between Loitoktok and Taveta, and most farmers are in Kenya, doing quite a bit of horticultural production, the aggregates in Tanzania are placed along the borders, targeting the Kenyan farmers.
He explains that for the past 2 years, PCPB has significantly escalated efforts to combat proliferation of unauthorized pesticides across the country, with enforcement shifting strategy based on serious intelligence-guided raids and seizures in regions like Mount Kenya, Kosovo region, Northern Kenya, Kisumu, Nakuru, and Nairobi. These raids have resulted in numerous seizures and court processes.
In terms of quantities, we could be talking of including the port of Mombasa, we could be talking of over 50 metric tons. In Garissa, we conducted the same intelligence land raids, where we seized goods worth over 3 million. This about a month ago. And in Matu, we also got intelligence on somebody who has been importing and distributing to farmers directly in Mount Kenya area. This fellow was importing from this Loitoktok, Tanzania, and this gentleman was actually a clever man. He used couriers all through until at the point of destination.
He was eventually nabbed and goods worth about 800,000 shillings seized. These goods, Mushiri says, were headed to the region surrounding Masinga Dam and Mount Kenya, where these products are often found.
Our intelligence has informed us that he was the main distributor. Yes, so he was put in, he pleaded guilty, he was fined 30,000, or I think 3 months in default. He paid the fine, and the goods were forfeited to the state. However, the court did not release the goods to PCPB. These are some of the challenges we are facing as an institution. The law does not talk about 30,000. The maximum is 250 for that. 250,000. The moment you plead guilty, there is no leeway. It's 250. So we don't know where the judge got or the magistrate got the 30,000. Two, you know, these are some of these guys. They know the systems. We have a feeling some of them are protected by the same systems that are supposed to be enforcing the law.
But then came the other problem of finding agrovets who seem to be protected by the powers that be.
If we know that you are protected in a certain police station, we use officers from different police stations. Even the court, we take you to a different court. Like this one we took, we used police officers from Kisauni, did a raid in Mombasa. Then the court was processed in Sansu. We avoided the Mombasa court. Why did we do this? He had previously been charged before there. He failed to appear in court. A warrant of arrest was issued. It was never effected. So we decided now, as they look for the other warrant to effect, we start another one and we moved on. So the case is ongoing.
The East African community is actively pursuing harmonization of pesticide regulations under the EAC Treaty to boost food security, agricultural productivity, and regional trade. The core strategy involves streamlining the registration process by adopting a common data package, harmonized labeling, and enabling mutual recognition of efficacy and residue trial data among partner states. Ugandan and Tanzanian food policy experts reveal what is happening in their countries and the progress being made. This is Ben Bwambale, Head of Programs at Global Consumer Center, also called Consent. He also works with the Food Safety Coalition of Uganda, an umbrella body pushing for food safety.
When it comes to the pesticide issue, actually it's just like an African disease, I would call it. So when you go to Uganda, currently we have 115 active ingredients that have been registered. These are the ones that are fully registered. And these have been packaged in 669 brands. So you can just imagine that if you walk to Uganda now, you will find 669 brands of pesticides on our market. And of course, we also know that around about 40% of the pesticides in Uganda are actually counterfeit. That is also another sad story, that they're actually counterfeit, meaning that they're either fake or, but anyway, they're on the market.
20%?
40. It goes up to 40% of our pesticides are actually fake products on the market, which is another challenge, of course, to the users. But of course, focusing on the pesticides, we see that about 60%, more than 60% of the pesticides used in Uganda cannot be used in the countries of origin because they are highly hazardous. Some of them are carcinogenic, meaning that they can cause a cancer if you have exposure. Others are mutagenic, meaning that they can alter your DNA or your genetic makeup when you have exposure. Others are endocrine disruptors, meaning that actually they can change the system of your body that actually makes hormones. You know how terrible that can be. And then also we have others which are, you know, reproductive toxicants, meaning that actually they can affect your reproduction.
Like Kenya, Uganda has policy and regulatory frameworks, even international conventions they are party to protect people against hazardous molecules. At country level, the constitution is clear about protection of the environment, providing mandates for things like the National Environment Authority and the Agrochemicals Control Act. However, these provisions are not utilized to the maximum, thus allowing products registered in Kenya and Tanzania and banned there to cross through porous borders.
Sometime back, there was kind of a ban on 2,4-D. But when you go to Uganda, you find it in our food, you find it in our water, you find it in our air. We've seen in situations where Paraquat was kind of banned in Uganda, but Kenya was still using it.
He explains how studies in Uganda show pesticide residues are available in food samples, including tomatoes widely used in food preparation. They sought to check whether washing tomatoes with cold water and warm water and peeling them would have any impact on residue amounts.
When we peeled tomatoes, there was a reduction in the chemicals, but by 69%. Okay? So meaning that you have a 21% remaining in the tomato sample and the consumer takes it in. And then when we washed with cold water, the reduction also was there. It will be significant, but only reduced by 30%, meaning that you have a 70% presence in the tomato sample. And the consumer is going to take it, is going to eat it. So the question is, if I took a tomato with 70% of mancozeb, what is the effect of that on my health? And who is bothered anyway? Where do I report that actually I've taken a tomato with this sample? Yeah? And then also when we washed with warm water, there was also substantial reduction, but it was not even 40%. It was actually around about 39%, meaning you still have a 61% present in the tomato sample. So meaning if we go to hotels and we consume tomatoes as salads, it means that the consumer is directly taking in chemicals.
In another study in Uganda, water samples were tested. Researchers went to communities in every region at the start of the planting season in April and picked water samples from 86 water sources. They went back in June when the season was at peak and compared the results.
In April, you would find at least an average of 7 chemicals in water bodies. But in June, they had tripled. Actually, it had increased 3.6 times. So we're talking about 25 chemicals present in the water sources. And now we have also to note that these water sources were community water sources, where people in communities down there are actually drawing water for, cooking, for drinking, for animals, for whatever. Another study in Uganda, for 6 solid months, were trapping air to see the presence of molecules in the air. And surprisingly, you'd find molecules present in the water, which are also highly hazardous. I've seen atrazine, for instance, present in our air, which people are breathing every day. And that is a chemical for 6 solid months continuous. That molecule is present. It was burnt. It is a highly hazardous molecule, but present in the air.
Uganda then took one more step and attempted to check whether pesticide residues would be present in human bodies. They took blood and urine samples from farmers and went to the lab.
Surprisingly, you'd still find these molecules present in people's urine. So meaning that as farmers are working out the day, people are eating, these molecules keep on accumulating in our bodies because we're able to find them in human urine. Other studies are even finding them in human sweat. So it's a whole problem that we're talking about, contaminating the environment, contaminating our bodies, and then you shouldn't get surprised when the cancers increase, and yet our governments do not have sufficient capacity to deal with the health implications of these chemicals. Yet we know the problem. If a molecule is banned in the EU, ban it from your country. So that you protect your consumers. These are people, taxpayers, etc. We cannot have productive communities. We cannot have productive countries. We cannot increase our GDP when people are sick and getting sick of a problem that we know, but we are not acting.
In Tanzania, Dr. Vera Ngowi, a senior lecturer at Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences, narrates Tanzania's efforts at pesticide regulation. In this country, pesticide regulations started in 1979 under the Tropical Pesticides Research Institute, which was then housed under the East Africa Pesticide Control Organization. It would eventually be renamed Tanzania Plant Health Inspectorate, with a change in mandate from pesticide regulation to ensuring plant health.
The things, they are more concerned with plant health. So their effort is not controlling pesticides, but it is trying to make sure that pesticides are used, and they are used what they call judiciously, or they are used responsibly, or they are used safely, whatever terminology that they are using. And they are working very closely with the industry, because in 2022, they announced that they had banned 44 highly hazardous pesticides that were identified in Tanzania. But when we followed this up, they said, no, the minister was ahead of things. We have not banned these. Actually, we are in the process of banning, but we are trying to find alternatives for these products before we can ban them. Then we said, how long is it going to take? Say, now we are negotiating with stakeholders so that they can recommend alternatives. But when we ask who are these stakeholders, it is the industry.
When they pressed harder, they were told that there is an harmonization team involving East Africa and Southern Africa working together on how to phase out highly hazardous pesticides. This team was also supposed to come up with deadlines.
So it was a surprise for us when we heard that Kenya had banned pesticides, and we asked ourselves, where is this harmonization? How come Tanzania is still using these pesticides? So if you ask me, since they started, fumbling with the law, we started having problem of counterfeit products, substandard products. And these ones, I think most of them resulted again from the trade liberalization. Because in 1992, there was trade liberalization, which also included pesticides. They were liberalized. So everybody went into pesticide business. And when you have everybody buying to sell pesticides, pesticides, they have shelf life. they expire at times. So if you have not sold these products, they've expired. What do? They go, either they relabel or they repackage and send them back to the market.
Vera reveals pesticides not only cross the border into Tanzania from Kenya and Uganda, they also cross from South Africa, Zambia, Mozambique, Burundi, and Rwanda. These chemicals are then used on crops like tomatoes, onions, vegetables, and maize, which are imported to Kenya for consumption. Dr. Vera laments that despite Tanzania having a lot of research focused on harm caused by pesticides, leaders are not keen on implementing solutions. Their actions, she says, breach international conventions that stipulate that pesticide products should only be used by people who are competent.
Here you have government that is giving people poisons who cannot even decide what pesticide to use. And they cannot even protect themselves because they don't have money to buy protective equipment. And even if they buy the protective equipment, under the heat that we have, you cannot wear that space suit and go out into the field and work. So we have a problem. The government is not serious about protecting the people against pesticides, actually.
In East Africa, these experts believe it is time for reforms. However, harmonization of pesticide regulations is yet to make significant progress. Mushiri, the PCPB CEO, says the topic is under discussion under the EAC Technical Working Group on Agriculture.
The first thing we wanted to do as EAC was harmonization on registration requirements before you introduce a pesticide into either of the states. And we did and approved the pesticide registration guidelines to be adopted by the EAC member states. Can I tell you, up to today, these guidelines have only been adopted by Kenya. Some of the countries within the region are within the EAC state. They only appear for meetings. They will never say no to anything, but nothing happens after the meeting. So this has been making it a little bit difficult for mutual recognition of the registration systems within the region. We have even a mutual recognition mechanism that has been agreed upon. But is it being implemented? The answer is no.
Kenya can ban 77 molecules. The question is, when you ban them, are they going to cross from Kenya to other countries? If yes, it means that the farmers this side will keep on through the porous borders bringing them back. The issue is, if it is East African community, then all of us have to ban them. Because what does not work for a Kenyan should not work for a Ugandan, neither should it work for a Tanzanian. The law in Uganda says that after using the pesticide, you're supposed to return the bottles to the person who sold it. How many people know that? We don't know. But also, after using the pesticide, we see people getting pesticide empty bottles and they put sugar, they put salt, they put tea leaves in their homes. Because, I mean, they look at them as empties, so they can use them for salt, for sugar, for, whatever it is. But also we can see those empty bottles being used to carry water. A child is going to school and the mother packs, water in a bottle that had a pesticide.
Now, farmers, they have got used to pesticides so much, it's very difficult to convince them or to persuade them to change.
Well, we made a lot of noise, baptized us all sorts of names, alarmists and whatever. So they have at least highlighted 14 molecules that, are for review, and we are waiting. So shall make more noise to make sure that actually they get off, because they are highly hazardous in nature.
Organic farming in Kenya has also gained significant momentum in recent years, moving away from conventional practices that rely heavily on synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. This shift is driven by growing awareness of potential health risks associated with pesticide residues in food and direct exposure during application, and also the realization that organic practices can restore soil health and address soil pollution that is caused by long-term conventional farming.
What our government has been focusing on is food production. And when you produce food, is how much metric tons of food are we getting? That has been the narrative. But we ask ourselves, is this food that is nutrients empty, food that messes with our soil, food that is not taking care of the health of our farmers and our consumers? Is that what we want to achieve? No.
However, there is a stumbling block, and this is the over-reliance of farmers on synthetic pesticides.
The greatest challenge we're having with our farmers is the belief that without these active ingredients, especially for the fungicides, you cannot be able to grow crops that are not dependent on the highly hazardous pesticide. We have proven through some large-scale farmers who are doing agroecology in Nanyuki, who are using other non-hazardous and biological inputs to be able to control these, let's say, fungal diseases at a very early age. So it's through control.
Seed banks, particularly community seed banks, are a foundational element of organic farming. This is because they conserve and provide access to diverse, locally adapted and non-GMO seeds. These indigenous varieties are often better suited to local environmental conditions such as drought or pests, and do not require synthetic inputs characteristic of industrial agriculture. At Seed Savers Network that is run by Daniel Wanjama, 130,000 farmers across the country preserve indigenous seeds in 121 community seed banks.
We don't have to use these chemicals. For example, there are regulations in Kenya that says if you're saving seeds or you are selling seeds, you must dress them with certain chemicals to control weevils, to control insects, to control what else. But they dictate that in the regulations you must have chemicals. And we were asking ourselves, in the traditional days, what did the farmers do? What did people do to preserve their grains? What did they do to preserve their seeds?
In partnership with the National Engineering Board, they tested seeds preserved using modern ways and others preserved using traditional ways, and found that those preserved traditionally were doing much better after a year.
For instance, if you freeze seeds to -19 and below, you even destroy the weevil's eggs. Like in the fridge, we keep seeds for 100 years. The seeds that we have in this seed bank, they come from the farmers. And if you go, for instance, in the agro shops, you'll not find them. And we also get some seeds from the National Gene Bank, where we generate and we multiply more. And this is what we preserve. And you see the technology we use here for preserving seeds is also traditional. For instance, use of this kind of container, the bag made of skin, is by Turkana community. Some other communities use a pot. Other communities use a gourd. Instead of telling people in Turkana to go buy containers, plastic or glasses, why can't they, when they slaughter goats that they have for food, why can't they use the same containers, use the same hidden skins to make containers that they need, so that the solutions and the technology is appropriate and localized.
As a result of work done by Seed Savers Network, farmers like Beatrice Wangoi Mwangi have started their own seed banks where they store various seeds from the community. She runs the community seed bank at Gilgil, Langalanga at Kangai village for about 7 years and trains farmers on organic farming.
Sisi tunajiwekea mbegu
na tumetrainiwa kujiwekea mbegu zetu za kiasili, na tumetrainiwa na Seed Savers Network vile tunajiwekea mbegu zetu za kiasili, na tunahifadhi na njia ambayo ni nzuri, kwa sababu tunachagua mbegu kutoka kwa shamba, tunakuja tunaikausha vizuri, tunakuja tunaichagua, tunapepeta vizuri, na kabla hatujaweka mbegu kwa seed bank ni lazima tuangalie kama hizo mbegu zimekauka vizuri. Kwa hivyo kwa kiwango ya mkulima kama mimi, tunatafuta chumvi na mbegu. Ukiweka mbegu kwa chumvi imalize siku 3, kama hiyo mbegu haitakuwa imekauka, chumvi itakuwa imeshika chupa. Kwa hivyo itakuonesha hiyo mbegu haijakauka vizuri. Kutoka hapo tunafanya maneno ya germination testing. Kuangalia hizo mbegu zetu, tumefanya hizo kazi yote nzuri. Hizo mbegu zitamea. Kama mimi ni mkulima, nikichukua hizo mbegu nikienda nikipanda, mvua ikinyesha itamea. Kwa hivyo ndio tunafanya germination testing, ambayo tunachukua container, tunaweka hata kama ni serviette, tunaweka maji, hata kama ni kitambaa ambayo itaweza shika maji, unaweka pale, alafu unapanga mbegu yako 10 mara 4. Kama ni maharagwe, ikimaliza siku 5 ya 6, utakuja uangalie imemea kwa asilimia ngapi. Kutoka hapo unaanza kuhifadhi mbegu zako vizuri, na tunahifadhi mbegu na tunahifadhi kwa jivu, kwa pilipili, hata utaweza hifadhi na hii mchanga ambayo ni ya bricks. Zile bricks, hizo mchanga inakuwa nzuri sana.
Wangoi is also part of a community that makes their own biopesticides for use on their farms.
Ya kwanza, FPE. FPE ni fermented plant extract. Hii unatafuta majani ambayo ni kali. Zile majani kali, tithonia, aloe vera, pilipili, mefangi, hizo zote. Unazikatakata, unaisoak for 14 days. Siku 14 imetosha, ukamue na udilute na upeleke kwa shamba. Ya pili ni rabbit urine. Rabbit urine, kama mkulima nimejiwekea sungura, ndio ninapata makojoo ya sungura. Kwa sababu makojoo ya sungura ni urea. Nikinyunyizia mimea yangu inanawiri vizuri sana. Na tena makojoo ya sungura bado inanisaidia kufukuza wadudu kwa shamba. Ya tatu tuna microbe. Microbe, wakati mwingine microbe tunatumia wakati tunataka kupanda mbegu, ndio mbegu zetu ziatakiwe na zile wadudu wanakuwa chini ya mchanga wakati unapanda. Kwa hivyo tunachukua mbegu, tunachanganya na microbe, alafu tunakausha hizo mbegu, alafu tunaenda tunapanda. Kwa hivyo hata ikikuta mdudu pale kwa mchanga, haitasumbua mbegu yangu. Hii ingine ni ash brew. Ash brew tunatengeneza na sabuni ya kipandi na jivu ya kuni. Tunaichemsha, tuna create ile sabuni vizuri, ndio iabsorb kwa maji vizuri. Tunaweka jivu, alafu inachemka kwa dakika 40. Kama imechemka, ukitoa uache ipoe, ukipeleka kwa shamba bado inafukuza wadudu. Na hizi njia zetu tunatumia njia nyingi, ndio hii isipofaulu na hii ingine inafaulu.
When making biopesticides as a group, members meet periodically, with each meeting's agenda different than the last.
Huwa tunaambiana, wewe ndio utakuja na aloe vera, wewe ndio utakuja na pilipili, wewe ndio utakuja na tithonia. Kila mtu kama wakulima 18, kila mtu atakuja na aina yake. Tunazikatakata pamoja, kwa sababu hata tumenunua drum ambayo tunasoku hizo vitu pamoja, tunazikatakata, tunasoku pamoja, tunaiwacha imalize siku 14. Pahali kwa mkulima ambapo tumeenda kutengenezea hiyo dawa, yeye ndio atabaki na kazi ya kupindua kila asubuhi. Anapindua kila asubuhi na kila jioni. Alafu ikiiva baada ya siku 14, tunakutana, tunaichunga vizuri, kila mtu anaenda nayo kwake, anaendelea kunyunyiza kwa mimea yake.
In the same region lives John Ngugi Ng'ang'a. He has been an organic farmer for over 15 years now.
Na sababu ya kuanza kuwa kulima kilimo cha organic ni kwa sababu kule kwetu juu, pile mnaona kule juu kuna mashamba ambayo ni karibu na msitu. Tulikuwa nalima viazi. Sasa kilima hiyo viazi, nashindwa ni kwa nini viazi yao inakuwa mnono na ingine yetu kilima kawaida na fertilizer kawaida inakuwa sio mnono. Kumbe kuna dawa walikuwa wanaongeza nafanya hiyo viazi inakuwa nono. Lakini ile wanabakisha kasehemu kadogo, hiyo hawapigi hiyo dawa. Sana sema hiyo ni yao, lakini hii mnono ni ya watu wanalo kwa sababu wanapenda hiyo mnono. Kumbe hiyo kadawa inafanya viazi inone, ndio inaenda kuharibu mili.
He started learning how to make biopesticides at home and never looked back.
Haya, biopesticide tunauda na hii tunaita Tanzania, tunachukua majani yake kama kilo 1. Unachukua mimea hii kimine kama kuna aloe vera, kuna African marigold, kuna ingine kwa Kikuyu mwenu lakini kwa Kiingereza inaitwa Tropesa figoli. Alafu kuna zingine. Sasa hizo ukikatakata unasiweka kwa bucket ya lita 20, unaweka 10 liters. Sasa ukifunika inakaa tuseme 10 days. Kwa 10 days una sieve. Sasa hiyo ukisieve hiyo utakuwa unaweka 200 mils kwa 20 liters ya maji. Uzuri wa hiyo biopesticides ni kwamba hiyo majani kama Tanzania inaongeza a lot of nitrogen.
And at Kipipiri in Nyandarua County, Samuel Kuria practices both conventional and organic farming. In one parcel, he practices conventional farming, pure organic in another, and a mix of both in another. He started organic farming as an experiment after a survey showed that his soil was becoming acidic. He explains that he uses an app on his phone that shows him the levels of soil acidity, helping him identify areas of his farm that need improvement.
Nimejaribu kufanya naye, inakupea results kama zile tu za lab. Lakini tunataka sasa hiyo mambo tufunzwe vizuri because hakuna kuguza mchanga, unasuguka tu na inakupea.
So how you approach it? In the same county is Betty Guchu, who is not only an organic farmer but also sells organic fertilizers. At her farm in Daragwa, she grows her own food. And realizing the widespread dangers of conventional methods, she occasionally partners with organizations to train farmers in agroecology. But Betty knows that talking isn't enough. The farmers need access to affordable, chemical-free inputs. This motivated her to open a small shop selling organic fertilizers sourced from her training partners, the Organic Agriculture Center of Kenya.
And because of the scandal of the fake fertilizer, they thought, well, we know Betty, if she's selling us bad stuff, we know where she lives, you know. So they took a chance with me. They took a chance with me, and those who started buying from me continue to buy. It now arrives by the lorry full here, and it moves.
Betty's dislike for synthetic pesticides has also been shaped by experiences of those that she has interacted with. They include a potato farmer who made losses, a villager who lost his mother, and a farmer who, after struggling for years, finally managed to produce enough to last his family for a year.
To illustrate what I can say is tell the story of an elderly man who came and found me sitting there at my desk, and he asked me one morning, and he says, do you remember me? And I said, I didn't. Of course, I see too many people, you know. And I said, I didn't. He says, well, I bought fertilizer from you. And we planted, and we harvested 5 bags of maize, 590 kilo. Yeah? And he said, and I've stored it in my room where I sleep, so that, he was speaking in Kikuyu, so that when I go to bed, I can touch it like that because I know this year we're not going to be hungry. Then I knew I was doing something right. The policy of the Ministry of Agriculture, I understand it is to promote agroecology. So how can we be promoting agroecology, yet we are using inputs that are detrimental to the soil, that are detrimental to the environment, that are eventually detrimental to us as human beings, as consumers of what we are growing? There is a disconnect there, and really the government needs to stop talking from both sides of its mouth, you know.
James Mwangi, founder of Africa Center for Preventive and Corrective Action, has filed a petition at the National Assembly calling for better regulation of the agrochemical industry. This petition addresses unsafe agrochemical use and inadequate regulation of pesticides, including toxic and counterfeit products. The petition demands an immediate retraction of agrochemicals banned or declared unsafe by the European Union, the USA, or the World Health Organization, and a publishing and yearly update of transparent national lists of prohibited chemicals. The petition also demands an implementation of modern anti-counterfeit systems like QR codes, track and trace, and digital registries to strengthen border surveillance and expand the regulatory body's laboratory capacity. The petition also demands an establishment of a low tax on sales to fund farmer education, subsidized personal protective equipment, and support for safer alternatives like integrated pest management. The petition also demands for an introduction of a minimum age of 21 for purchasing or using of hazardous agrochemicals. The petition believes that restriction of the most dangerous pesticides should be left to licensed and certified professionals through a national certification program. The petition is also calling for food safety strengthening and for empowering of the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate for regular random food residue inspection in markets, and for the organization to be granted authority to destroy contaminated produce and enforce the farm-to-market traceability.
These chemicals are poisonous. Why do we still have them in our shelves? These leaders in the European Union, they have enacted laws that prohibit sales and distribution of chemical products, poisonous products, to their people. But the same leaders in the European Union are enabling export of poison to Africa. We have ambassadors in Nairobi. Why are you ambassadors in Nairobi, knowing very well that these products that are being sold in Kenya are not consumed in your country? Why are you allowing? What kind of diplomacy is this?
Mwangi also points a finger at the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, Kefis, for focusing heavily on ensuring Kenyan French beans and other produce meet strict export standards for pesticide levels, while doing little to conduct local surveillance for products that are consumed locally.
It can be that you want to monitor production for export. You want to see what what products are being grown in the right way for export. But you also don't want to get concerned on what Kenyans are consuming. So Kefis, you want to ensure that the food that we are taking to the European Union is clean. But Kefis is not concerned with the food Kenyan people are taking. Our supermarkets are filled with filth, dirty food. Nobody cares. Kefis and CPB, they never monitor what is happening. What is in our supermarket is in our shelves. But Kefis, you find them at the airport. You'll find Kefis at JKIA, you'll find Kefis at Port of Mombasa, where there is the point of entry and exit. But Kefis is not concerned with what Kenyans are eating. Kefis is concerned with what Europeans are eating. So who is Kefis working for? For Kenyans or for Europeans? Your first duty is to protect Kenyans.
We need to aggressively or progressively face them out. That's the key word. We have to progressively. I know the industry doesn't want anything to do with the ban, or doesn't want to do anything with the phase out. I mean, they don't want the ban, but they want to phase out, which is, a way of prolonging the thing.
Let's go to the end users. We did some community self-surveillance which is community monitoring, we teach farmers on how to monitor themselves. First, we teach them all the techniques on how to use pesticides, how to protect themselves while they're using pesticides, how to check pesticides that are registered in the country, not to buy pesticides that are not registered, and all these kind of things. And then we show them the side effects of pesticides. And then we give them a form, a questionnaire, that they will record symptoms they experience as they work in their farm.
Most of the nations of the world, they have their diets. And some of these diets, it is so curated. Curated in the sense that we would know we would want a detoxifier somewhere. We would want something, a builder somewhere. We want a supplement somewhere. So that constitutes a national diet. I am sure you have interacted with many multinationals. When they come here, even in a conference, they start looking for their diet. Why? Because there is a way their diet is framed. Now, during that conversation, if the paraquats and other agrochemicals are regulated, we have a national standard, then we need to have a dialogue, the dialogue to achieve one, detoxification.
But we need to do massively a lot of awareness, build capacities of our communities, make sure our leaders are put to book. Actually, we need to make sure that they are put to book. And we make sure that we run away from corporations, because the corporations come with a lot of money, confuse people, etc. Because for them, they have to sell.
So agencies in Africa that are mandated to protect Africans need to work for Africa. Africa is your first business.
This is more than a health crisis. It's an urgent demand for justice and decisive action. And while the legal battles and the scientific findings are an essential step, the ultimate responsibility lies with the government and its enforcement agencies, which must now move beyond token raids and minimal fines. Unless we move urgently to secure our farms and to protect our food chains, our toxic harvest will continue to reap sickness and death for generations to come. Mercy Chalangat, NTV.